Boom. There we go. Yes. Okay. So thank you very much for joining us this morning, Mr. Epison. We are working capital management. That is our guide for today. Yes. Now, I want to tell you a story, Mr. Epison. As you know, working capital management is such a real story that we should be able to look at in our daily lives. It is not something that is complicated, no? Working capital management is something that especially that you're in employment, you know working capital very well. So now here, what I'm trying to bring to your attention is this. Let's say, Mr. Epison, what business do you do?
I don't do any.
Okay, so now let's give you some business. If you had 100,000 kwacha today, what business would you do?
I would do agriculture, livestock actually farming.
You do agriculture?
And agriculture. Yeah, livestock and agriculture.
Okay, so if you had 100,000 kwacha today, you do agric. Okay, that is good. Agric. Is there anything else that you'd like to do as an alternative apart from agric?
Farming.
Farming is agric. Anything else? Is there anything else that you'd like to do apart from agric? Your speaker, kindly unmute your speaker. Your speaker is mute. You can just unmute your speaker. Unmute your speaker.
Yeah, sorry, there was a call. Yeah, there was a call.
Unmute your speaker. Okay, there we go. Good. So you're saying you can do farming. Now, this I want to tell you, let's say you can do farming. Now, let's say any other business you can do apart from farming. Anything else you thought about?
I haven't thought about anything. That's the only one that I have in mind.
Okay, so let's say this man, Mr. Epson, wants to do farming, and at the same time, he wants to open a restaurant. Okay. At the same time, this man wants to have a barber shop.
Okay.
At the same time, this man wants to build flats so that he can be renting them. At the same time, he's thinking about just having a little shop because where he lives there are no shops, so he wants to have a shop. Okay. So now this man also finally has met a friend of his who tells him, no, the agric business is a good business, but you do better if you ventured into real estate. Okay. You see this, Mr. Epison. Yeah. What this man, Mr. Epison, is doing here is that he's trying to come up with a lot of businesses. You see? Now, one thing you're going to agree with me that in all these businesses this man is trying to come up with, there's one thing that is common. Have you seen? There's a reason why he wants to do this kind of business. But before that, this man, for him to be able to run these businesses, all these businesses, they are going to need something called cash.
Okay.
Have you seen that? All these they'll need cash. But what will happen that for him to run a restaurant, he's going to need something called stock. For him to run a barber shop, he's going to need tools.
Yes.
For him to build, he's going to need materials. For him to run a retail shop, he's going to need stock. Have you seen that? And now for him to farm, oh, is going to need implements. You see? Now for you to be in a real estate business, of course, you're going to need some land. Have you seen? So all these things that you're going to need for you to run this business, they are going to need one common thing, all of them. All of them, they are going to need what? They are going to need cash. This guy here. Have you seen that? Now, because Mr. Epison is alone, he cannot manage everything alone. So what's going to happen that he's going to need employees. Have you seen? Because he needs to pay them. So all the employees are going to need, they will need what? They will need cash. Have you seen that?
Yes.
So what's going to happen that these raw materials, for him to be able to buy raw materials, Mr. Epison, is going to need cash. Have you seen that? For him to be able to buy stock, is going to need cash. For him to be able to buy implements for his farm, is going to need cash. For him to buy tools, is going to need cash. And for him to buy stock for his restaurant, is going to need cash. You see?
Okay.
Finally, for this man to be able to buy land, is definitely going to need cash. Now, where the problem is, Mr. Epison, is that the plans for this man are okay. He's going to need cash to buy all these things. But apart from that cash he's going to need, there's something else he's going to need. He's going to need something else called wages.
Okay.
Because he cannot manage everything alone. So Mr. Epison in this scenario is going to need some wages or salaries to pay the people that are going to be working for him, because it's going to need, of course, somebody to work at the shop. It's going to need somebody to work at the restaurant. It's going to need some people to work for him in a real estate business. It's going to need some people to work for him in farming. It's going to need some people to build for him and buy. So all these people, they need to be paid. But where the money is going to come from for him to pay all these people, it is going to come from this same figure, the 100,000. That is the only amount of cash that he has. So if we look at it in reality, Mr. Epison, what this man actually needs is a lot of cash. But the thing is that there's a problem here. Do you really think he can manage to do all these things with 100,000? Is it really true he can manage?
No, you can't manage.
He can't manage because the money definitely is little. So this man needs money to run the business. So for him to be able to pay these people wages, salaries, buy implements, buy stock, buy whatever he may need to buy, is going to need something that we call the working capital. Because from the start, this man can manage to start the business. They can start running. But where the problem is going to come from, that they won't finish. Because sooner than later, it's going to run out of working capital. It's going to run out of the cash needed to run its businesses on a day-to-day basis. So the idea I'm trying to introduce to you here is the idea of trading. What is going to happen? This man is going to have a common challenge. The challenge is going to have is that he is going to overtrade. This man will overtrade. What overtrading is a situation where this man has found himself into. He's trying to do too much, too quick, with very little capital resources. As a result, this man is going to fail to run his business. Have you seen? Because he has very little capital. We're going to be talking a lot about overtrading, but we're introducing a topic called working capital here, and we want to see how it works in real life.
Okay.
So we are going to forget the approach from the manual, how they start to talk about this. No, we forget all that. We just want to talk about it as a story that happens in reality. And then it's going to make sense when you start calculating the exam questions. So now here, this man is over trading. But there's something that can help him. Have you seen that? In order for him to be able to manage running the real estate business, the agriculture business, the restaurant, Mr. Epison needs something. But I want to ask you a question. Why do you think this man is venturing in all these kinds of businesses? What is the main reason he wants? What is he looking for?
I'm sure he's looking to expand and venture into something profitable.
The word is profitable. Have you seen? The only thing this man is looking for in all these endeavors he's found himself into is just a profit. This man is simply looking for profit. Nothing else. He's simply looking for profit, only profit. Profitability. He's looking for profit, but he's not going to have profits because he's going to run out of money to run his business, to fund the business. So for him to survive, he's going to need to come up with some necessary policies.
Mm-hmm.
Are you seeing that?
Okay.
This man will need to have some proper working capital policies. Now, those policies will help him to be able to manage the inflows and outflows of cash on a daily basis.
Okay.
Yes. So those policies are what we are calling the working capital policies. So working capital really is simply the difference between the Nkongole that you have today, the liabilities you have today, and the current assets, the liquidity that you have today. So you get the current assets, we remove the current liabilities. What remains is working capital. So if you look at this man has got a lot of liabilities. So if we get all his liabilities to paying rent, paying the wages, buying the raw materials, paying the suppliers, etc., all those we get them, we remove them from the assets that he has. What remains is the working capital. Because as things stand, this man is overtrading because he is overambitious. So to help him not overtrade, we need to help him manage his working capital, manage his cash on a daily basis. If he can succeed in managing his cash today, which means he can succeed tomorrow, which will end up him succeeding the whole year.
Okay.
So there we go. So for the purpose of working capital management, we want to mention that this man is looking for profitability. But at the same time, for him to have this profit, he needs what? He needs to maintain his liquidity. Have you seen that? He needs to maintain his liquidity for him to have that profit. By liquidity, we mean he needs to maintain a certain level of current assets, a certain level of working capital to support him on a day-to-day activities. So there we go. So for the purpose of this session, we are going to separate two things. As you know, we are saying that working capital management is simply the difference between the current assets and the current liabilities. So current assets, they fall into this category here. These are the current assets. And then current liabilities also fall in the other category right there, current liabilities. So what's going to happen? For the purpose of working capital management, the assets have been divided into four. Number one, because this money needs cash to run his business. So one of the current assets is going to need is actually cash. Number two, as you know, this man needs some stock. He needs inventories. Have you seen? So those stocks, we are classifying them as inventories. Now you see, under working capital management, inventories have been divided into three. There's what we call when you buy raw materials.
Okay.
And then there's also inventories of work in progress. When you buy raw materials, You begin to produce. Production is going on. Now you have your work in progress. As you continue, at some point, that work in progress is going to finish. You're going to finish producing. It's going to be turned into what we call finished goods. Now, those finished goods, Mr. Epison, when you sell, of course, we assume that you sell on credit. When you sell on credit, they are going to give birth to some guy called a receivable, because you will be expecting to receive some money from what you sold, from these finished goods. Now, when you sell, there are two things you're expected to receive. Now, here's the point. When you sell, it's either you sell on cash, you receive cash, or when you sell, it's either you're going to receive what we are going to say a check. Okay. Have you seen? Now, this check is a current asset. It is a good example of what we are going to add now to the list of current assets, and we are going to call it number 4, marketable securities. Okay. A good example of a marketable security is cash. So cash is such a beautiful example of a marketable security. So you see, these things, have you seen the way they move? It is just a story. You buy, you start producing, work in progress, finished goods, you sell, there's a receivable, you can receive cash, or you can receive cash, or you can receive. Yes, madam. Hello. Yes, I'm in class. Oh, okay, all right. Seriously, I didn't know that I'm live. I'm live on Facebook. Oh, let me just cancel now. I didn't know you've done what to call me. I thought I turned it off. Oh no, this technology. Okay, let me cancel now. You see what has happened, Mr. Epison? It turns out that we are live on Facebook.
Yeah, you can just use it. I also store it on.
Oh no, how? I thought it was off. Mr. Epison, just a moment, I've just received a phone call from the admin that we are live on Facebook. I thought I turned it off. Let me just turn it off now.
All right, okay.
Oh yeah, this is serious. Okay. Oh no, oh no. How do I remove this? How do I move this one? I don't even know how to remove it.
Delete the video.
Yeah, I want to delete it.
Yeah, just go on the same video and click on.
There is no option to delete.
Let me see.
Yeah. Yeah. Please delete it, huh? Okay, now the one that you've seen it, huh?
Mm-hmm.
You've deleted?
I know.
Okay. So there we go. Sorry about that. We were live on Facebook, so other people were watching us.
Following.
Okay, so there we go. So now, this is how this story goes. Now, what's going to happen that for the purpose of working capital management,
Okay, so if you enter in your page, going to page,
okay,
wasanga video in your
so it has been deleted.
Yeah, deleted.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, we've done well. Huh? I didn't know that we are being watched by other people. Okay, so there we go. So we've started now. For the purpose of working capital management, the current liabilities have been also divided into 5 or 6. Number 1, you can never forget a payable. A payable is a good source of short-term finance. Number 2, you cannot forget the risk rental due for payment or taxation due for payment.
Okay.
Taxation due for payment. Number 3, we have short-term loans because it's current liability. So we have short-term loans. Number 4, remember you can never bring long-term loans here. However, there's an exemption if you borrowed 5 years ago. So from 5 years ago, this was a from 5 years ago, you bought a long-term loan. You can't put it here, but if you bought 5 years ago, now this year that loan is falling due. That means in this current year, it becomes a current liability. So we've got long-term loans, falling due.
Okay, falling due. Okay.
Falling due within 1 year. Have you seen?
Yeah.
So from you had bought from 5 years ago, but what you bought is falling due within 1 year now. So it becomes a current liability in this current year. And then we can also talk about dividends due for payments.
Okay.
You've made some profits. You have some good retained earnings. Now you want to share with the owners of the business. So dividends due for payment. Now here you've got to be careful. Don't get dividends due for payments, not unnecessary proposals from the question or unnecessary whatever. Get what has been due for payment is what you include as a guide because it is due. If you're contemplating on giving a dividend to shareholders, you've not yet decided properly what you're going to give them. The examiner will never leave you blind on this one. He always tell you what is happening. And then last but not the least, also we're going to include what we are going to call the lease rental. You see? The lease rental due for payment. So this rental due also, you are whether into a lease agreement for 5 years or whatever years or 20 years. Now this particular year, those leases, they are due, the rentals are due for payment. A good example is where you pay a lease in advance. So let's say here, this is January 1, you pay in advance. And we are standing today at December 31st here. Tomorrow morning will be another year. You're supposed to pay rent in advance. So that rent you're going to pay tomorrow morning becomes a current liability. You've entered into a 20 years lease, but you pay in advance, meaning every start of the year, the first thing you're supposed to do is pay the rentals. So it becomes a current liability. So now what's happening here, Mr. Episode, is that if you notice from our previous illustration here, we said the only reason why this man here, Mr. Episode, has ventured into all these businesses here, he is simply looking for profitability here. Have you seen?
Yeah.
So working capital management all has too many objectives. For him to have this profit here, he needs to have what? Liquidity. He needs to maintain his liquidity. That's the only way he's going to have profit. What do we mean by that? What we mean by that is that if you go to Nakonde today, you go and buy a bag of rice at 1,000. Then you come back to Lusaka, and sell that bag of rice at 1,900. What you're going to report is a profit of 900 kwacha. But is it really true that you've made the profit of 900 kwacha? No, because going to Nakonde and coming back is 600 kwacha. And then you lodged somewhere, you ate some food and some other expenses, which is going to be more than 1,900 kwacha. So in reality, you've not made any profit, you've made a loss.
Yeah.
Are you seeing? Huh?
Sure.
So for you to be able to, for your profit to be able to have some value, it must be backed by liquidity. Have you seen? So if you look at what we've done now here on our next page here, this man, Mr. Epison, can only be able to manage running that business if so this man can manage to have his profit if he maintains these guys here. He's got to maintain his current assets.
Okay, let me just.
Have you seen? Because if we subtract the current liabilities
Let me just ask him.
from the current assets, we should have some value here called working what? Working capital.
So she's saying she can't access the class.
We have some value called working capital. Have you seen?
Okay.
She can't access class. We are live. How come she can't? The same link that we're using, the one that we're using even now. Okay, let me just text her telling her she should use the same link. So what's happening here is that if you get all these liabilities on your right, and then from me it's on my right, I don't know when you're watching if it's on your right. If you get all these liabilities here, you remove from all these assets, you should have this guy, the working what? The working capital. So which means that under normal circumstances, for Mr. Epison to be able to run his business, he should have some working capital here. He should maintain these current assets. So what should happen is that he should be able to have less of these liabilities and more of the current assets. Because when it happens like this, that's the owner is going to have this guy called the working capital. You see? Now, in our illustration, it looks like this guy, Mr. Epison, has got more of the liabilities than the what? Than the working capital.
Yes.
The money he needs to run his business today is less than the business itself. So he has a lot of liabilities, which means that he is running into what we call area over what? Over trading. Have you seen?
Yes.
He is currently over trading. So on the statement of financial position, it is very easy, Mr. Epison, to know when a business is over trading or not. You don't even need to start calculating ratios. Of course, ratios they are needed for marks. You need to calculate them in exam for marks. But before even working out ratios, you're able to tell that this company is definitely over trading. Have you seen? Because we've talked about two things here already. We've established the main objective of working capital management. We've said the main objective is simply, number one, to maximize profitability, profit. And then number two, to maintain what? Liquidity.
Sure.
Have you seen? Liquidity has got to do with the level of current assets that we have. So now let's talk about it this way. In the previous illustration, that man had got more of the liabilities, meaning that this man, because he had more of the liabilities, he was over trading. Are you seeing?
Okay.
So now, in our previous example, that man had got more liabilities, and he had less what? Less capital, less current assets, meaning that this man, he was doing what we are calling it, he was over trading. So remember, Before I jump into overtrading, I want to take you back. We've said there are only two main important objectives of working capital management: profit maximization and liquidity maintenance. So therefore, the role of working capital management is to ensure that companies have got proper policies put in place, which is going to enable them succeed both in the short term and in the long term. Have you seen that?
Okay.
That is the main role of working capital management. There's a difference between a role and an objective. An objective is that which you want to achieve: profitability and liquidity. These two are what we are calling what? Objective. A role is the part that you play. The part that you play, that you make sure as working capital that companies have proper policies put in place to ensure they are successful in the short term and in the long term. Oh, that is serious.
Okay.
So now there are symptoms of this guy overtrading that you can simply see. Remember, overtrading has been defined already as this man here trying to do too much, too quick, with little capital resources. He wants to do a lot of businesses, Mr. Episode, but he has 100,000. So what are the causes of this overtrading before we go to the symptoms? What do you think is causing this man to do a lot of businesses? What are the causes, sir? What could make Mr. Episode to want to do agriculture, real estate, restaurant, etc.? Why?
Sometimes maybe he wants to diversify the business from having maybe relying on one type to different types.
Good.
Or maybe
He's trying to diversify. You are right. Anything else that could cause him to overtrade?
sometimes it's just being ambitious.
That is the point. Huh? Point number two is important than point number one. Point number two, this man is being overly ambitious. So the cause of overtrading is, number one, overly ambitious management. You see, you just have this management which is just too overly ambitious. They just want to do a lot of things when they don't have money. Number two, it could be wrong forecasts. Have you seen?
Okay.
Wrong forecasts. You see? Wrong forecasts of what? Wrong forecasts of who? Number one, costs.
Okay.
Number two, revenues. Number three, profits. This man goes to Nakonde, he buys a bag of oil at 1,000. He sells at 1,900, and he thinks he's made a profit. He's made a wrong forecast of the profits, a wrong forecast of the costs involved, which has resulted into him having exaggerated revenues. He has no money. The other cost he didn't foresee. Have you seen? The other cost he didn't properly account for. So overtrading is a result of being overambitious, making wrong forecast. But here's one thing, in the exam, you must be practical in the exam. You don't expect the exam to be telling you answers in the exam. Tell him answers, practical answers. So what you do, you can tell the exam that even COVID-19 can make one to overtrade. You see? Sudden change in the economic environment. Let's say everything was okay. You did the proper forecast, you did everything. Suddenly there's COVID-19, businesses shut down. You incur losses. You run out of cash, now you begin to overtrade. You see that?
Yeah.
That is one of these, that's another potential reason for overtrading. Now, the other potential reason it could be give practical answers. These answers I'm giving, they're not in the textbook, but I'm just giving you from using common sense. There's a company that loves employing relatives. Have you seen?
Sure.
So because you've employed relatives, you're going to have something called incompetent management.
Okay. Okay.
You are employing relatives who are not qualified because you want to impress them, or you employ children of your friends to keep up an appearance or impress them. You end up suffering. Have you seen?
Okay.
They are incompetent. They can't just make proper estimates. So these are some of the symptoms of overtrading. So this man here may be overtrading as a company due to all these other factors. Are you seeing?
Okay.
Now, what's going to happen here is this. The examiner asks you define overtrading, the causes, and how it can be dealt with. So now, how do you think this man here, Mr. Epison, can avoid overtrading? What do you think he can do? He has 100,000 and is doing a lot of things. What can you do to avoid overtrading?
To prioritize type of business you wanted.
Huh?
Prioritize the type of business.
Prioritize. And that's a good point.
Yes.
Prioritize. But Mr. Epison, don't you think that this Epison man, he was going to do better if he only did what he could with the available 100,000?
Yes.
So one way to avoid overtrading, we want to say that do what you can with available resources.
Okay.
Have you seen that? So this man could have avoided overtrading.
Okay.
Number one, he could have simply have done what? Do what you can with available resources. Oh yeah. Number two, what this man could have done to avoid overtrading is simply to do what? To take care when making estimates. Are you seeing?
Okay.
He could have calculated the cost properly. So do what? Make correct estimates. But no, the word correct may be misleading for the purpose because of auditing. In auditing, we don't use the word correct because it is highly misleading to tell somebody that the information is correct. Have you seen? So let's just say, take care when making what? Estimates.
Okay.
Take care when making forecasts of costs, revenues, and profits. Have you seen that? Where necessary, use expert knowledge. Have you seen? So you can even say where necessary, use expert knowledge. Have you seen that? Where necessary, use expert knowledge. Then number three, employ competent management. Don't employ your relatives just because they're relatives. Employ people who are competent. If you're going to employ a relative, it must be a qualified relative.
Okay.
Have you seen? There's nothing wrong when you employing your relatives. Nobody wants their relatives to suffer. But make sure you give them right positions. Have you seen? Employ competent management. Not just anybody who shows up. So there are lots of things you can do to avoid overtrading. You know, one thing you can even do to avoid overtrading, reduce on borrowings. Have you seen?
Okay.
Because when you overborrow, you won't be able to run your business. You won't be able to pay obligation, therefore you begin to overtrade. Have you seen? So there are a lot of reasons, a lot of things somebody can do. Just think about in reality what you can do as episode, you're at this farm, you're doing agri, what can you do to avoid running into liquidity problems, money issues? That's what the examiner is looking for. The examiner is looking for common sense. This is a management, this is a management decision-making paper. So think in the exam. Forget the manual. I discussed using the manual because the manual has got a tendency of sending students into a different direction.
Okay.
If you've noticed, are we using any manual here? No, I'm just telling you things. Because I've come to understand working capital, I can sleep and tell you. I don't need the manual to tell you what you should do. So get the same approach. Forget the manual, understand what you're talking about. Any question in the exam, you need it.
Okay.
But if you were glued to the manual, it will send you in a different direction because it will hinder your use of common sense. There are lots of answers which are not found in the manual.
Yeah, sure.
So the manual is there just to guide us to have the principles. But really, we have to be practical when we are studying.
Okay.
Yes. So now let's go back to our rather strange diagram, back again. Now that we've avoided overtrading, so you cannot avoid overtrading if you don't know what it is, how to spot it. Have you seen? You can only avoid overtrading if you know what overtrading looks like.
Sure.
So let's now talk about the symptoms of overtrading. Have you seen? What are the symptoms? Because we've been talking about avoiding it, the causes, but how can we spot it? Now remember, in the exam, there won't be an audio telling you what we are talking about. There will be a financial statement. You see? So you must be able to look at that financial statement and be able to spot when a company is overtrading. Symptom number one. There is usually what? Rapid increase in sales revenue. Now, what we mean by that is this. If we have 2 years here, we've got 2019 and we've got 2020. You know what's going to happen? You're going to find that in 2020, 2019, your sales were 10 million. Have you seen that? In 2020, your sales jumped from 10 million to 30 million. So when you do the percentage increase, you are going to find that what will be the percentage increase?
The other one is 30 and 10.
Yes, what's going to be the percentage increase?
Okay. Just a minute.
What's going to be the percentage increase?
Just a minute, I'm coming. About 75.
Okay. Are you sure the 75% increase?
It's 10 and 30.
Yes.
It is. Just a minute, I'm coming. 10,000 over 20,000.
So let's assume that the percentage increase is 20%. Hi.
Yes.
Or let's assume that it's 75%.
Okay.
Whichever, we'll just make an assumption. So what's going to happen is the percentage increase is 80% percentage increase. But what's going to shock you is that the profits will only increase, let's say by 5%. Have you seen? Why? These guys are selling a lot. There's a rapid increase in the sales revenue from 10 million to 30 million. How come the profit has only increased by 5%? It could be an indicator of overtrading. Have you seen?
Okay.
Maybe they have been selling on credit to customers, or maybe they have been selling on what? Lower prices. So they look like they're making money when they are not. Or maybe they are giving unnecessary discounts. The other thing you're going to see, there is the increase in the level of what? Of current assets, possibly even what? Even non-current assets. Now, this increase is a lie. Why do you say it's a lie? You're going to discover that when you look at the non-current liabilities, most assets are those assets funded by debt, but nishi bari kongwela abantu nga balishisha sana bari kwa tempia nishi bari kongwela tawapo tempia. Have you seen?
Okay.
The other important thing you must remember is that the ratios, the inventory days, they go down. The ratios go down. Inventory days, they go down. They reduce. They can no longer hold inventories for 30 days. They're now holding for 20 days, 22 days, 23 days. So inventory days, they go down. The other thing that changes dramatically is the what? The liquidity ratios. So the liquidity ratios change dramatically. There's a dramatic change. What happens is that if the ratio was 2, the quick ratio, by liquidity ratio, what we mean is that we mean 3 ratios. The liquidity ratios here for working capital purposes. Number 1, okay, we mean the current ratio. Number 2, we mean the quick ratio. Number 3, we mean the payable ratio. Payable days ratio. These ratios, they alter dramatically. They change. The liquidity ratios, they go down. Have you seen that? Okay. These two, they go down. Let's say from 2 to 0.9. Or sometimes from 2 to 1 point something. To show that they are going down. The quick ratio also goes down, either from 1 point something to 0 point something, to simply show that things are bad. So in the exam, sometimes the ratio will not be 0 point something, but it will go down from 2 to something lower than 2. So you have to tell the examiner the ratios are falling, indicating what? A liquidity problem. Even though in the short term, the company may seem to be stable in terms of liquidity. The ratio can be 1, which means that they are stable. But the fact that the ratios are dropping from 2 to 1 point something, there is a what? There's a problem. You have to talk about that one. Okay. Now, the other thing you must be able to see in the exam, if you are selling, if there's a rapid increase in sales revenue, or whatever it may be, but there's no cash, so how are you funding your business? Because for you to run your business, you need cash on a daily basis. Have you seen? You need working capital. You need working capital right there to run your business. So because you don't have cash, you are going to be pushed into something called what? Into something called overdrafts. Overdraft limits. Have you seen? Usually a company that is overtrading operates at an overdraft limit. Possibly negotiating an extension with possible extensions. You even go to the manager, no, we are asking if you can increase our facility from 20,000 to 30,000. Those are indicators of overtrading. You must see on the financial statement, you must go to your financial statement. Now, what you're going to see is this. What you're going to see, because they are selling on credit, what you're going to see is this. You're going to see that the inventory days, this guy, they are going down. there is no cash because there's liquidity problems. The payable days here is going to go up from maybe 20 days or maybe 60 days to 120 days or 109 or 100 whatever days, to show that as the obligations fall due, you have no financial mark to settle them. So sometimes the examiner will force you to compare the payable days with the industry or with another company or with the last year's figure. So you must see a trend. Are we going down in terms of, are we paying fast or are we delaying too much?
Okay.
These are ratios. So there's going to be a ratio called the inventory days ratios, the receivable days ratios, and the payable days ratios. You're going to work them out to tell whether you're overtrading or not. So indeed, Mr. Epison, from what we are doing right now, the idea is that, Steve, have you deleted the video? It is still going online. Are you sure it's deleted? Oh no, I hope so. Okay. You deleted, you're sure?
Let me check on the
Okay, check if it's there, because I've seen a notification that we are live. I don't know how it's happening. Okay. Please check. Okay, okay. Just a moment. I'm trying to remove the live feed because oh, okay, it's gone, it's deleted. Okay, thank you. It's not there. Okay, it's deleted. Okay. So there we go. So now what we are saying, Mr. Episode, is that there's an overdraft facility limit here. So be able to go to the SFP, go and see. These are the assets that you have on your, for me, it's on my left. So I'm seeing these assets here. You see, there is no way in reality a company will have less assets, current assets, and more liabilities and then not overtrade. How? Because if you have a lot of liabilities, meaning that even if you sold all your assets, you still can't pay everything. Have you seen? So also when you go to the SFP, be able to see the capital. We are going to see that there is capital. The capital funded by debt is more than capital funded by the shareholders. So capital more from what? From debt.
Okay.
And then we are going to have less from shareholders or from the issue of shares. So there is going to be a higher level of debt. You're going to do a long-term loan. You're going to do some short-term loans. You're going to see some overdraft being extended, operating at a limit. You're going to see some payables being delayed. All those causing a lot of confusions. Are you seeing? So the other thing we want to talk about after we've talked about overtrading, we want to talk, because you see, for you to survive overtrading, you must maintain a certain level of cash. When you sell, you know, sometimes you can overtrade because of poor management of receivables. Have you seen? It is one, it could also be the reason, you see? You could overtrade because of poor receivable management. Number 5, let's add it there. Poor receivable management. Poor receivable management. When you sell, you don't make follow-ups to go and tell your clients that you need to pay in Darama. No, you just relaxed. So because your clients are not paying you, you're going to borrow from the bank to run your, to fund your business. So if you manage your receivables properly, you will not overtrade. Are you seeing? So now here, I want to wrap the middle part here and bring in a concept here. There's a concept I want to bring here. Let's do away with the middle part here. Let's bring in an important concept. There is going to be a very, very important concept that we are going to do right here. Okay. So to avoid overtrading, there must be a constant flow of cash in the business, inflows and outflows, a balanced constant flow of cash. And that's what we're going to call what? The cash cycle. The cash cycle. So have you seen that we're dealing with this topic? We are simply dealing with it as a story. Should we have to have a cash cycle? Cash operating cycle. What is a cash cycle? A cash cycle is simply the period that elapses between you getting raw materials from your supplier, converting them into. So look at it this way. Have you seen here? A cash cycle is between you receiving your raw materials from a supplier so that you can start production, then you selling to your clients so that they can give you money, and then when you receive money, you pay your supplier. So it is simply the term that you have to between you receiving money from your clients and paying what? The supplier. It is a cash cycle. So a cash cycle is calculated in days. If it is given to you in terms of money, you can still convert that money into days by using the ratios. So the ratios that are going to be relevant for the purpose of working capital, we are going to do the ratios relevant. As I mentioned, there is the liquidity ratios and then payable days, inventory days, and other net asset turnover days. So now what is a cash cycle? We've defined it. So it's something like this. If this guy is your supplier, have you seen that? You've got this guy who is your supplier here. And then this other guy, here you have your work in progress. Here you have your customers, you sell to your customers, and here you receive money from your customers. So let's put it this way. We have these four things here. When you order goods from a supplier, the supplier gives you items, you begin to produce, then when you sell, you start expecting, you receive, and then you pay back. So what's happening is this: when you order, it takes the supplier 1 month to deliver. Have you seen? And then it takes you 2 months to produce. Have you seen? When you sell to your customers, it takes you 2 months to receive. When you receive, it takes you 2 months to pay your supplier here. So that means if we asked to work out the cash operating cycle for this company, so what Epson can do is going to get the what? Average raw materials. So raw material period is how much? 1 month. Have you seen?
Yes.
It's going to take a production time. How long does it take him to produce? 2 months. It's going to also add the time it takes him to receive from his customers, receivable days. How many? 2 months. And then, if you see, already has how many months? 5 months. And then it takes him how long to pay the supplier? 2 months. So he removes the payable for 2 months, which means his cycle is at 3 months. That is the cycle. So Epson's cycle is 3 months. Have you seen? It is taking him 3 months to have what? To have money, which is a bad thing for business. So there is a way Epson can reduce this period so that he should be having money quickly so that he can run his business. Because if you're having money after 3 months, it means you are going to depend on this guy here. The number 7 is a guy called the overdraft. Is going to need the overdraft to run his business. A private factor number, people say factor is difficult. Factor, it is not difficult. It is actually the easiest, because once you understand that this guy doesn't have money, each day that he works, he incurs an interest rate on overdrafts. Each day that you don't receive his money from customers, he runs his business on overdraft. So he's being charged on a daily basis an overdraft percentage. And you're going to know to do how to fish that stuff out in a bit.
Okay.
So now, what do you think, Mr. Episode, that Episode can do to reduce his cash operating cycle? Because his cycle is pretty bad. So what can this man do to reduce the cash cycle? What do you think?
I think in that reduce.
Because it's a cycle, it is going here. It's a cycle. It keeps on going round and round and round and round. It's a cycle. So what can you do to reduce it?
Maybe reducing on the production, maybe days.
Boom. You are right. So this time around, he goes to the supplier and he tells the supplier that, Mr. Supplier, I am not here to joke with you. I want the raw materials now. When I buy, I need them the same day. So that means raw material period, inventory days, and the inventory period has been done, what has been reduced to 0. Have you seen?
Yes.
Production time, it tells the people working in production, what I want starting from now. Have you seen? I want what?
Yes.
I want you to be able to be done everything in 1 month. Have you seen? Huh?
Yes.
And then he tells the people that are owing him the receivables. Okay, for you, it's fine. You can remain the way you are. So now he has a total of 3. If he removes the payables, he's going to have a total of how much? Of 1. So the cycle has reduced to 1 month. Have you seen? Simply by changing the production period and the inventory receivable period, the raw material receivable period. But again, there is something else he could have done. If Epison wanted, Epison could have also reduced the receivables. He could have told his clients that, pay me after 1 month. After 1 month, which could have further reduced this cycle to almost instant. Have you seen? But again, there is another thing he could have done easily to avoid all these unnecessary calculations. Okay. The other thing he could have done, Epison, he could have done this. See, let's remove all these away. Let's say they are the way they are. What Epison could have done, he could have simply reduced what? The payable days. He could have simply increased the payable days. Because is delaying to receive from his customers and the production is taking too much time on the inventories. What he could have done, he could have told the supplier, I'll pay you after 3 months. Okay. Or if you wanted, just as an example, he could have said, I'm going to pay you after how many months? 4 months. Which means that his cycle would have been how many months? 1 month. Have you seen?
Yes.
It could have been 1 month. So what we're trying to avoid here, Mr. Epison, what we're trying to establish that there's so many ways of shortening the cash cycle. The easiest way is simply to extend the payable days. That is the easiest way. Because once the payable days lengthens, the cycle shortens. Have you seen? So the opposite is true. If you want to lengthen the cash cycle, simply tell the supplier, when I buy, take as much time as you want to give me my raw materials, or simply delay production, or simply extend the receivable days. Then you delay. Okay. But the other way to lengthen the cash cycle is simply to shorten the payable days. See, this man is paying after 2 months. If you wanted to lengthen the cycle, what you could have done, he could have just paid after 1 month. Could have paid after 1 month, just 1 month. The cycle would have gone to 4 months. So when you pay your supplier quickly, have you seen? And then you delay to receive from your customers, your cash cycle will delay to lengthen. From flow class exam. These are practical things that you can do in real life. Do not be intimidated by working capital questions, and people don't understand principles when they say it is complicated, because it is not complicated. From what you've looked at, Mr. Episode, is there anything complicated on working capital?
No, so far so good.
It is not complicated, and you'll be disappointed as we go to do the management of cash, management of receivables, management of inventories, and management of payables. You're going to be shocked that these things are fairly easy. They are just overpriced by people who don't understand principles. So now here's the thing. The examiner loves a question. Remember what we said? We said, what is the role of working capital? What did we say is the role?
The role we said is to make sure. You said the role of working capital.
Yes.
The objectives or the role?
The role, not the objective. The role. What is the role?
To make sure that the company, you said that to make sure that the company has the proper policies.
Excellent. To make sure that companies have got the proper policies in place. Those policies is what is going to make it possible for you to achieve your objectives. And the objectives are only two: profitability maximization and yes, liquidity.
Okay.
Now, here's the thing, Mr. Epison. The examiner asks a question of asking that define or what is it, explain the cash operating cycle and its relationship with the working capital policies. Have you seen? Working capital funding policy, working capital has got three main policies. And those policies, they are highly linked to the cash operating cycle. So, the reason why I'm not rubbing this diagram here, because it is going to help us understand a lot of things easily. So let's go. Let's use it again, this diagram. So I hope for you are writing somewhere in your notes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So there we go. You see, working capital has got some policies. So what we have in the middle here is working capital. Once our cycle is properly done, our working capital is going to be okay. Now, this working capital has got policies. Because that is the role of working capital, to ensure the company has got policies. We call them funding policies. They are working capital funding funding policies. Now, these policies, they have been split into two. Number one, there is what we call investment policies.
Investment policies.
We have investment policies.
Okay.
And then number two.
Yes. And number two.
We have financing policies.
Okay.
So there's investment and then there's financing.
Financing. Okay.
So there we go.
Okay.
Now, you know, there's a difference between a financing policy and an investment policy. Mm-hmm. A financing policy has got to do with the type of finance you choose to use. Have you seen? Okay. The investment policy has got to do with the amount of capital you choose to invest. So let's go back to our diagram. Our rather complicated diagram, our rather strange diagram, but so beautiful diagram. Our beautiful diagram tells us that this man, Mr. Epison, only had how much? 100,000. You see that?
Sure.
This man chose to invest 100,000. Have you seen? That is an investment decision. Have you seen? But Mr. Epson, do you know where this money got the money?
No.
If this money, let's say he got the money using a loan, have you seen? If he had a loan, this loan is a financing what? Decision. Now, he could have made a decision either to finance the business using two things. Number one, he could have used a short-term loan. Number two, he could have used a long-term loan. Have you seen? So a financing decision has got to do with the type of finance that you choose to use. Is it a short-term loan or is it a long-term loan? An investment decision has got to do with the amount of investment you choose, the amount of money you choose to invest. Is it 100,000 that you're going to invest, or is it 50,000? Is it 20 million if you are loaded? That is an investment decision. So you must make sure that you see the difference. Now, under investment, there are three important policies that are directly linked to the cash operating cycle. So let's go. Boom. There we go. So under investment, we've got three strategies that we use when investing. Have you seen?
Okay.
But each strategy is dependent upon the type of risk that the business is facing. So depending on the type of risk the business is in, you should be able to decide the type of policy to implement. Don't just implement a policy. You have to know the reason why you're implementing a policy and how that policy is going to affect your what? Your cash cycle. Because each policy has the way it affects your cash cycle. Some policies will lengthen your cash cycle. Some policies will shorten your cash cycle. Some policies will make it balanced. So each policy you choose has an effect on the cash cycle. This is why I've decided to bring a cash cycle in the middle and be able to do with everything apart from pen. Because if you follow the manual, we are going to go into a different direction. So let's go. Policy number one is called conservative approach. Number one, conservative. Now you see, when you say conservative, what do we mean to conserve? Conservative. To conserve. Conservative approach. So we've got a conservative approach. Okay. Now this approach, it's an approach which is used by organizations in situations where they are trying to get rid of the risk of stockouts. Have you seen? Where a company's inventory days is 22 days, 20 days, 18 days, meaning that that particular company can only hold inventory up to a period of 20 days. Anybody who comes after 20 days won't have anything to buy. That means you're going to have the lost contribution issue. So to eliminate that challenge, it is important for companies to implement a conservative approach. Because under this approach, a lot of things are going to happen. Let's see what's going to happen. What's going to happen is this.
This approach is used by organization to do what?
To eliminate the stockout issues, stock breakdowns.
Okay.
That is how it is used. Okay, so now there we go. Now this approach will mean a lot of things. Number one, if this approach is implemented, it means that the company is going to buy more stock. And these are just reality, Mr. Epison. If you don't want to be running out of stock, what do you do? Buy more stock. Okay, so under this approach, the company invests in invest in what? In current assets. They put more money in current assets. What we mean by investing in current assets is that they are going to have a lot of inventories. So at any time you go to buy, you find it. What's going to happen that customers will be given a reasonable time to pay their debts. You won't be hindering your customers. You'll be giving him time to pay. Maybe 2 months, 3 months, you are relaxed. The other thing that's going to happen is that for you, you're going to be a good boy. So what we mean by that is that you're going to tell your supplier that I'm such a nice man and I want to pay you now. So you're going to quickly pay your suppliers, meaning that your payables are going to go down.
Okay.
Have you seen?
Yes.
Now, remember, there's a cycle here. Remember what you said? We said that a cycle can be increased or reduced by simply playing with the payables. So if you reduce your payable days, it means your cycle is going to do what? It is going to shorten.
Okay.
Have you seen that?
Yes.
What we say that if you have production time, you have inventory days of 2, receivable days of 1, of 5, and then the payable days of which is 7, the payable days of 2. Your cycle is going to be 5 months. Oh, sorry. If you reduce your payable days, your cycle lengthens. Have you seen? Because what you're subtracting is less. But if you increase your payable days to maybe 4, your cycle shortens to 3. Have you seen?
Yes.
So under this approach, because you are paying your customers quickly, it means that your payables has been reduced. That means your cycle here is going to go up. Your cycle will increase. Your cash cycle is going up under the conservative approach.
Okay.
So that's how you answer the question. Explain the working cycle and the relationship with what? The working capital mean what? Funding strategies or mean what? Funding policies. So conservative approach has an effect on the cash operating cycle because there's too much investment in what? In inventories, investment in receivables, but also you promptly pay what? Your suppliers, which extends your cash cycle. Now, this approach has got an advantage. The advantage that it eliminates stock what? Stock breakdowns, stock outs. I hope you're writing that.
Yes.
The disadvantage of this approach is very, very familiar. It is this. The disadvantage of this approach is that there is too much what? Too much finance costs. Have you seen? What do we mean? What we mean is this, Mr. Epison.
Yes.
If you have a lot of inventories here, you see, if you buy a lot of inventories, obviously you're going to need more room to keep them. You need a warehouse, and that warehouse you need to rent. And also sometimes you're going to need what? Insurance in case of fire. You don't want to lose everything. The costs are going up. Also, you're going to need security to protect them from being stolen, theft. Your costs are going up. Also, sometimes because they are too much, the employees in production, they become what? They become careless in the way they use the inventories, the raw materials. They begin to misuse by employees. And also even just spoilage, obsolete, deterioration in value. Have you seen? Because people don't buy them on time. All those are finance what? Are finance costs. Now, what happens under this approach that because you tell your customer to take as much time as you want to pay me, it means you are simply selling things. Have you seen? You're not getting money. You're going to run out of money because you don't have money to what? To pay those costs. Because of that finance cost, a business is going to have a higher finance cost. And that higher finance cost is going to force you now to want to do away with the finance cost because you're not receiving any money. Have you seen? Now, the only way you're going to do away with the finance cost by introducing the second approach, approach number 2, called the aggressive approach. Now, under this approach, what you do, you go back to your suppliers and you tell them, ladies and gentlemen, Christmas time is over. Now, what you do here is this. You eliminate inventories. Okay. Oh. Okay. You do need anything? Oh. No share breakfast. Oh. Okay. All right. I'm just from Molan Sanga. Ma classes. Lelo. What about Guamba my classes? It's up to you.
All right.
Okay. Thank you very much. See you. So there we go. So now we have the inventories there. Under the aggressive approach, you don't keep inventories. You work like JIT. Only buy what is needed for production. The reason is simple because you don't want to be keeping unnecessary inventories in your stock to avoid paying ephemeral storage, security, insurance, etc. Eliminate those costs. So this approach, in the short term, you are going to look like you're making profits because everything you have, you are selling. And you're not keeping anything in your stock. Now, what do? You go to your receivables and tell them, guys, I'm no longer giving you 2 months. I want my money within a month. You reduce your receivable days. Now, you see our diagram is making a lot of sense now. You reduce the receivable days. Okay. Once you reduce the receivable days, what do? You tell your suppliers, you say, oh, dear suppliers, I forgot to remind you that I'm not a Father Christmas. I'm not a Father Christmas. I'm going to pay you your money after 3 months. You extend, you delay paying your suppliers because in the previous approach, you are paying them quickly. Now you begin to delay. Now, this approach has got one advantage. The advantage is that it eliminates what? It eliminates finance costs. The problem it has is that it brings about a risk of stockouts because you don't buy in bulk no more. Have you seen? You don't have stockouts. So you're going to run out of stock sooner than later, which will bring issues to do with lost contributions. So this approach has got a bearing on the cash operating cycle, this guy. What happens is this, if you reduce, have you seen, if you reduce your receivables from 2 months to 1 month, you eliminate the inventory keeping stuff to 0, you don't keep inventories, and then you increase the payables to suppliers to 3 months. Have you seen? It means your cash cycle is going to shorten. So it's like this. Instead, you are saying that you are taking 1 month inventories, 2 months receivables, 2 months production, you have 5 there. Then you have 2 months paying your suppliers. So that means when you less, you're having 3 cash cycle. Now here, what you do, you say you eliminate these inventories out, you don't no longer keep them. Receivables, you reduce them to 1. Have you seen? Production time, you eliminate. Have you seen? Or even if you leave them to 2, whatever it may be. What's going to happen is that you're going to extend your payables from 3 months, because they are going up, let's say from 2 months to 4 months, which means even if you did not do anything here, you still had 5 here. When you remove that 4, you'll still be able to have how much? 1 month cash cycle. Let me repeat what I've said. What I'm saying is this. Under the aggressive approach, the cash cycle shortens. How? Because if they say here we have 5 months, then we are paying after 2 months. We say no more, we are going to increase. We'll be paying you after 4 months. You extend the payable days to 4 months, which means that your cash cycle goes to what? To 1 month. You'll be having your money after 1 month. After 1 month. You see that? You'll be having your money after 1 month. So each approach that the company chooses to use has got a bearing on the cash operating cycle. So before you suggest in the exam which approach the company should look at, consider the type of risks the company is in. Are they having the risk of stockouts, the problem? Or are they having the problem with finance costs? Have you seen? Now, you see, both approaches we've talked about have got their advantages and disadvantages. The disadvantage of the aggressive approach that you're going to be running out of stock. And because you are delaying paying your customers, your suppliers, you are going to be a bad customer. So they won't be giving you on credit now. They'll be scared of you. Have you seen? So now you're going to have a bad name with your suppliers. Have you seen? Huh? And your customers won't be so much happy with you because they're giving them too much pressure. There's no breathing space. So now I begin to think, if I go the conservative approach way, there are these finance costs. If I go the aggressive way, there are these stockouts, bad customer relationships. So what am I going to do? Have you seen? So what you are going to do now, you are going to implement the what? The third approach. The third approach is called the moderate approach.
Okay.
Now, the moderate approach is an approach which strikes a balance. Sometimes you're aggressive, sometimes you're conservative. Have you seen? Sometimes you pay some customers quickly, sometimes you delay some customers. Sometimes you receive money from some customers, sometimes you pay suppliers fast, sometimes you delay. Sometimes you tell your customers to pay you quickly, sometimes you give them enough time. You are between, you are moderate, packet. It's fully. Okay. In short, you are a hypocrite. A hypocrite. Musedera kwa cover.
Okay.
This is good. This is good. This is good. Okay. So that approach is, there's nothing much on the approach. The effect of that approach on the cash cycle, that it's going to be a balanced cash. It won't be too long. It won't be too short. It will be just on the mid. We'll be receiving cash normally if we are finished.
Okay.
Yeah. So have you seen how the cash operating cycle is affected by the 3 working capital policies?
Yes.
Yes. So in the exam, please be in the question. Ask the question, business is what our company. Any problem when you have company. What can I advise them of good value to our company? What are they not doing right? Don't think about the manual. The manual will make you pay the exam fees over and over and over again.
Okay.
The manual will not appreciate you 50 pages through it. But common sense and understanding the question in the exam and thinking about it in reality, the way you can do it, is going to pay you a lot.
Okay.
One point has to be made though. The manual is not bad. But the manual should not be the primary focus, because it will take you to Zimbabwe when you're supposed to be going to South Africa.
Okay. Sure. Yes, boss.
Okay. So now remember I said funding policies that vary into 2. We've got investment policies, we are done, and now we have financing policies. Financing policies has got to do with the type of finance. These guys has got to do with how much. Have you seen?
Okay.
So the type of financing, there are only 2. We can have short term, and then we can have long term.
Okay.
Long term. Short term finance. Short term finance has got to do with advantages and disadvantages. We can talk about the short-term finance are good because they are cheaper. Have you seen short-term finance? We've got short-term on the types of finance.
Okay.
Types of finance. Anyway, my handwriting is not that part today. I don't know the kind of settings that have been done today, but anyway, it will be sorted. So number one, we've got short-term. Now, short-term, they've got advantages. One of them is that they are very, 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 very flexible to arrange. It is easier to arrange for short-term. Why do you say they are easy to arrange? Because there's what? No much paperwork involved.
Okay.
You just welcome guys to Akarowa episode. My name is episode in the bomba, pesi PNG. Na record na fridge upright kunga and I got na dispenser through money umpe. The guy for will simply follow you. Mind munganda mona yisu me itapat na fridge kumia we hoping that we can take a sende. First time pay. Have you seen that? Easy to arrange.
Yes.
No need to go tend to stay insurance, tend to station now. You get all your money instantly. Number two, we're saying the short-term loans, they're also cheaper. Have you seen?
Okay.
Yeah, but cheap.
Yes. Yes.
But the problem with these guys is that they are very riskier. Wa karwanga money fridge match the vika ba episode. Naka dispenser. But 30 on the dot tamulete in beer. Tomorrow morning power nice I'm sender dispenser. Fridge dispenser. They don't play. They don't play. Fast, but I'm poke. Hello? Hello?
Yeah.
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah. Sorry, there was a call on my phone.
Oh, okay. All right. So these are risky. The long-term loans, the long-term loans,
on the disadvantages.
They are riskier
Okay.
because they have what we are calling volatility, volatile interest rates.
Okay.
They are very risky. Long-term, on the other hand, they are not riskier, but there's too much paperwork.
Okay.
And they are also expensive. And in most cases, you don't get everything you've applied for. Because if you want to get a 50,000 to pay in 5 years, they are going to subtract my insurance, see what you end up getting a 30-something thousand.
Okay. Yeah.
Have you seen that? However, in the exam, this is why we are emphasizing this episode, be able to see the challenges of the company. Are they adding a deficit of cash in the short term or a deficit in the long term? Because if they're adding a deficit just in the short term, there's no way you can start organizing from a long term source of finance. Have you seen?
Okay.
Organize just for the short term. But if you see last year, they made a lot of losses, they are having problems. The other year, even in this year, then you need, if you go for short term source of finance, it won't work. Because what this company needs is some breathing space to be able to work first without anybody coming to get any money from them anytime soon. Have you seen? Then after that, that's when now you can be able to come and charge. After that, you can now be able to come and start paying. So be able to see the problem the company is in. Is it a short-term problem, a long-term problem? If a short-term problem, use short-term also finance. Just get a payable, an overdraft, etc. If it's a long-term problem, come on, go and get a long-term loan to have some breathing space.
Okay.
Have you seen? So look at this diagram, or beautiful diagram from the outset. What episode has he has a problem in the short term, which is going to affect his long-term so finance. Is what you turn to run. So you have to decide. Should we use a short-term loan here, or should we use a long-term loan there to help him run the business? So look like this guy has a lot of problems. Huh? A short-term loan won't even help him. Have you seen? He needs something to have some breathing space. Some breathing space. A long-term source of finance will work for this guy. So mukweshe ni fira monenge ifitafiru vikana ngupano no mofya. Just that about students were muhari, wanting to go and start chatting on the outside, how tricky it was when it was so easy to understand. Zika temunobe. You're even boasting about failing, huh? Karakira ni mpona wa guy karia. So proud. Why? Wasango muntale mfono ko last time I got 48. I'm telling you, it was bad. How do you boast about 48? So you must be able to see these things in the exam to avoid coming to boast about 48. 48. Because if you comforted when somebody got 40, then you got 48, you think you are better or you're just the same?
You both failed. You both failed, so there's no one who's better.
Especially if the smart student in class failed, if you comforted, even that one failed. Just because people are suffering doesn't mean you should also suffer. Have you seen?
No.
Let's go. So to understand financing policies, assets have been split into three.
Okay.
So number one, we've got the assets called the non-current fixed assets. Non-current fixed assets. These are long-term assets from which the company expects to receive what? To receive a return in a long period of time. So companies expect to receive a return in the long term from these long-term fixed assets.
Okay.
Yes. Number two, we've got permanent current assets. Now the permanent current assets, these are simply the amounts needed to meet the long-term minimum needs of the business. And then lastly, but not the least, we have the fluctuating current assets. These ones, they are the assets coming, they are the assets that change according, hello madam, welcome, according to the what? To the level of activity. These ones, they vary according to the level of activities. They change according to the levels of activities. I received a phone call that you were unable to access class. It's just cut.
It was 2 minutes. The first one that you were trying to record.
Oh, what happened was that we received a phone call from the admin that we are live on Facebook. So it was cut, yes. Okay.
And I couldn't access the other one.
Oh, the other one. So you just have to come. Oh no. Sorry about that. Anyway, we're happy that you are here. We're having class with Mr. Epison. They're even concluding on working capital management. So we are going to give them a break. Then we're going to continue again. So you want to greet him because he's going to be your classmate for the next 3 days. Anyway, you can say hi. Let me remove the. You can come here. So you have a classmate joining you.
Okay.
Good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Don't have a name?
I'm just fine. I'm Josephine Tembo.
Josephine. Okay.
I hope it was Joseph, huh? Josephine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we are now going to give you a break, and then when we come back, come back in full force. We're coming back now to do questions. So we've given you the theories. We've given you everything you need to know. So the next thing you're coming to do now is this. We are not yet done, so we are coming to do cash management, inventory management, receivable management, and yes, payable management.
Okay.
Yes. So I'm going to give you a question right now that you are going to attempt at your break, and then we resume with the answers. Do you have the revision for this course for MA?
Yes, I have.
You have it with you right there?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so do question number. That one. Do question number 56. Okay. Do question number 56, and then we resume when you're done. So when you're done, give me a call so we can now dive into the sales management. We do the factor and etc. those calculations. So do question number 56. This question contains the thing that we are from discussing. Remember, you are going to need to use the liquidity ratios. We've talked about those ratios: the payable days, receivable days, inventory days, quick ratio, current ratio, etc. So do that question and don't check the answer. Just do it. It's okay to fail when you're alone because you won't pay any money for failing when you're alone.
Yeah.
But if you try to check the answer, you are deceiving yourself. So just do it, and then we come and do it together. Okay, so thank you so much. So I'm now cutting you off the class for now, and we resume at exactly 12 hours.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you very much. See you at 12 hours. So for those of us who are following us on Facebook, you may be able to catch me at 0953 979798. Both a phone call or WhatsApp. So we resume with the receivable management at 12 hours.
Okay.
So here we'll be looking at things to do with what is the factor, the stuff that the students don't like for reasons best known to themselves.
Okay.
The factor, then we go to payables, then we go to inventory. We come back. Thank you so much.
Okay.
We'll see you at 12 hours.
All right.